you about, you had mentioned that you adore middle grade on your manuscript wish list page. I can't speak. You adore middle grade that uses humor as a tool to reveal funny, unspoken truths about kids, experiences with very heavier themes about family life for the world at large. And I have seen that done well, and I have seen that done really heavy-handed in a way you can't miss it. So with all of your years of experience as an editor, how would you advise your clients to be able to pull that off, but not become so heavy-handed?
Yeah, I think, light touch is easier said than done, for sure. And it's definitely an art. And I think one of the reasons I mentioned humor is I think that's a great way to sort of alleviate, may not be the right word, but to alleviate sort of the heavy-handedness that could come with addressing heavier topics. And I think, Walk Two Moons, I mentioned earlier by Sharon Creech, one of the reasons it's one of my favorite middle grade novels is that it's so funny and it's so quirky and the characters are so great and three-dimensional and well-developed. And but the heart of the story is tragic. It's incredibly sad. And you don't fully, as a reader, as a middle grader, you don't fully know, spoiler alert, it's about the loss of a parent. And it handles it in such a way that you're laughing the whole way through until, suddenly you're sort of like have the rug pulled out from under you and you have that, like, you're sort of, it gives you the space to, I think, feel all of those emotions that come with something like that without feeling like it's being forced upon you or like you're being manipulated, if that makes sense. I think one of the things I hate to feel like is that someone is trying to pull my heartstrings in a way. I think when it's done in a way that it's an art, and I don't know that I can even instruct a writer how exactly to do it in a quick way. But I think that humor is a great way to sort of get a reader to stick along with you on a topic that is more difficult to handle. I mean, I think it's similar to how like a stand-up comedian could talk about really dark stuff, but they're making you laugh. And so you're willing to listen to them talk about it. I feel like it's kind of a similar thing.
Gotcha. I love the idea of how do I write a brilliant novel? 2 minutes or less, go. Humor is also so wonderful for horror stories as well, because if we're laughing, we're having fun, we stopped worrying for a moment, which is the perfect time to terrify your audience.
True, it's totally true. Absolutely, yes, for sure.
Let your guard down. Oh, wonderful. That's what I was hoping for.
Exactly.
Are you interested? I know YA mystery and suspense. Are you interested in horror at all?
I am interested in horror. In fact, one of my clients has a spooky light horror middle grade that I'm working on right now. And I'm very interested in horror. I think particularly in middle grade, in part because I'm a total chicken when it comes to horror, and middle grade horror I can stand to work on without getting terrified. But I think, potentially I'm interested in it in YA as well. I think it's having such a moment right now, which is great and exciting and makes so much sense because horror is a very safe space to explore the scary feelings that so many of us are feeling just existing in the world right now. So I think I'm really glad to kind of see it have a bit of a renaissance right now. And yes, definitely interested in horror. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I saw that you'd mentioned one of the next books that you'd like to find or something similar is The Witches by Roald Dahl, which I consider to be the scariest middle grade novel ever written.
Very creepy stuff. Yeah.
Also problematic. Check out my conversation with Kyle Lukoff, esteemed audience, as he breaks down exactly why that book is so problematic, but it's also very, very scary.
Yeah, I would be interested I'll have to check out that conversation. I reread the beginning of that book not too long ago, and I haven't read it in full, so I'll have to kind of read it again with an eye to that. I'd be curious to know more. But I mean, yeah, Roald Dahl is problematic for a number of reasons, so I can sort of imagine why. But I mean, the thing with The Witches and with Roald Dahl generally is that he was not afraid to go dark, and I think that's something I love to see in middle grade is people not really shying away from kids, darker feelings, because kids that age certainly do, feel the same spectrum of emotions that we adults do. And there's really no reason, I don't think, to try to shield them from that. And I think one thing I like about Roald Dahl and in The Witches in particular is how how the darkness and the humor sort of fuse together in a really interesting way. And I think that's what I would really love to see.
Another great. I've already put the disclaimer out there, so now I can talk about how much I love about Roald Dahl. And I always, esteemed audience is probably sick of me sticking up for him, but I would like to point out that he lived in a different time. Lots of people were racist and sexist at that time. They didn't all write The Witches or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We'll focus on his more admirable qualities. And something I love about that book, and it makes me think of voicey middle grade, is that the narrator does become a character, and it's a little bit reassuring because that narrator is there talking directly to us from the beginning. Even though we're going to see some really scary stuff, I know that funny narrator is going to be there with me through parts of it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like having, if you're being told a story in person, and you trust that person, then you're more willing to get carried along for the ride. I think that's a great point. Yeah, absolutely.